So how was Snow White's second weekend in release? Well, not great at all whatsoever. And yeah, now it has officially moved in historic bomb territory. It was always going to lose money, okay? But now that the trades are talking about how much money it's losing, you already know that it's bad. Mostly because they know, because this film was, well, it was filmed in the UK, so eventually we're going to get those tax documents. So we're going to know how much Disney spent right down to the last red cent and how much they ended up losing on this project. But the trades are talking about it, where they're already just lying about it to run cover for Disney, because for as bad as this is going to be, they're going to be lapping their ass in about a month and change when Lilo and Stitch comes out, and immediately shifting away from ever mentioning Snow White ever again. Snow White's poisoned apple by controversy at box office won't have a happy ending with $115 million loss. I beg your pardon, $115 million lost. Let's see their justification on this one, okay? Because this is some funny math, okay, and not just like your traditional Hollywood funny math. This right here, it makes no sense at all, okay? Disney's Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot starring Snow White is headed to an estimated loss of $115 million after a global home entertainment, TV, and Disney Plus ancillaries, according to distribution sources on Monday. Yeah, these same sources that were telling you that, oh no, it's going to have a $100 million opening weekend. Okay, it's going to have an 80. All right, well, we'll meet you in the middle with like 70 something. Oh, what's that, 44? Okay, we missed a little bit. Yes, the loss, which was expected, is based on the final worldwide box office of $225 million. And that might end up being incredibly optimistic, because we'll take a look at the numbers here very shortly. And well, there's a comparable that's out there that we can go ahead and draw on. And well, it looks a little bit more favorable to Snow White right now. That other film that we can go ahead and draw comparisons to didn't have the type of competition that Snow White is about to have here right on the horizon, which isn't really going to do that much better, but it is still going to draw eyeballs and, more importantly, theaters away from Snow White, because that's basically all that they have going for them right now. Just the simple amount of real estate, 4,200 theaters for this catastrophic failure. If it didn't have that many screens, this thing would be an all-time failure, because that's about the only thing that it has going for it. Because we can go ahead and speculate until we're blue in the face as to why this film was such a catastrophic failure. We'll go back to the numbers here in a second. But yes, from Rachel Zegler's comments, I think that's ultimately, that's the impetus for why this thing failed so spectacularly. But how did that just simply burst into the mainstream? How did it end up being something that everybody started talking about? Because her statements aren't really that much more toxic than just about everybody else in Hollywood. Okay, there's somebody who we're going to draw parallels to, and somebody who has come to the defense of Rachel. That'll be more tomorrow, but she has her personal politics that she likes to push. She has demonized half the country. She's really no different than Mark Hamill or Mark Ruffalo. But here's the thing, man, okay? She's got two things that she can't quite connect, to the likes of Hamill or Ruffalo. And no, I'm not just talking about her eyeballs connecting together, but she doesn't have the talent, and she's also attached to a terrible movie that has some of the most nightmare-inducing horror fuel that is those CGI dwarfs, okay? Because that right there, that catapulted this film from being just an innocuous bomb to being, oh my god, have you seen the film with the disastrous Alfred E. Newman CGI? And holy crap, Snow White's supposed to look a certain way. That's not Snow White. Who is this? And then eventually, you start to type in Rachel, and then you get hit in the face with who Rachel Zegler is. So yeah, if it wasn't for Disney serving up Snow Brown on a silver platter, bedazzled in turd flakes, might have been able to skate by on this, but you just couldn't help yourself. You couldn't hire capable and competent people to make a film for you. Oh well. Broken down, the global coup is based on a possible $100 million take at the domestic box office, which is under the $115 million gross for 2019's Dumbo. Oof, another live-action remake of a classic Disney animated feature. Yeah, and that one was a Tim Burton project, which at one point in time, Tim Burton's name used to just go ahead and have a certain cachet with audiences. But yeah, with Dumbo, wasn't really that much of a case. But that one also had like Danny DeVito and Michael Keaton looking really creepy, but also had dead-eyed animals to go ahead and contrast that with. So while Lion King could go ahead and get away with those same dead-eyed animals, there wasn't anything to immediately take you out of it by going, yeah, that's people. You want to do live action? Okay, cool. There's people there. But then you've just got like, what the hell is that abomination? There's nothing to play that off against. So yeah, if you have expressionless animals in your live action remake, if they all look the same, then they can all pass that same visual test. It's kind of like playing a video game. Follow me on this for a second, okay? If you're playing a game at 144 FPS, okay, but as long as it's consistent, you'll swear that you will never go back. Justifiably so. I've only ever been able to play a game at 60 FPS based on the panels that I use, but I digress. You eventually adapt to whatever screen you're looking at, but when it starts to fluctuate, okay, when you drop below 60, when you drop below 144, and it just starts to move back and forth, that's when there's an issue. And that's what you started to see with Snow White here, where you had the static expressions of Rachel Zegler. Well, actually, she's very much more the theater kid with her jutted out jaw and her acting to Rosie out there. She was doing her best Hulk Hogan impression to make sure that everybody in the theater could really listen to what she was saying, brother. And then playing that off of the stilted performance of Gal Gadot and those goofy Portland baristas. And then, yeah, juxtapose that with those unsettling CGI animals and dwarves. And it's like, you just got it. Like, there's nothing going for this film. Everything is just completely and totally out of step. So you just get this disjointed mashup of poison and piss. Back to the numbers. So yes, Dumbo made 115 million back in 2019 and got 125 million dollars overseas. Snow White, hit theaters on March 21st. Ended its Sunday box office with 14.2 million, 66% steeper in its second week drop off than Dumbo and Maleficent movies, a $36.3 million global, for a running worldwide total of 143.1 million. But that was the weekend estimates, but we got the final numbers, okay? And that's why I like to do this stuff Monday night going into Tuesday, okay? Because then we get the actuals, and these are the actuals, care of the numbers, because they're normally the best when it comes to reporting this stuff. And actually, Snow White did a $14.3 million second weekend, only a 66% drop off. But like I said before, just by its sheer real estate, that is the only reason that this film did as well as it did, because you have all of those individual locations at your disposal. Then you also have multiple screen times, okay, where on Friday and Saturday, I'd imagine you probably had 5 or 6 showings throughout the entire day. So that just gives you the air of a big movie, an important movie, a theater worthy movie. And so if this was a film that was 1,000 theaters shorter, which I would imagine this week we are very likely to see that type of a drop off by sheer brute force, this film would not be taking in the anemic totals that it did. Because you take a look at that, man, throughout the entire week, not even getting into the 4-digit club, and then that Friday is something absolutely atrocious. A $3.7 million second Friday, down 77% from an already pathetic $16 million. Bro, that's a huge problem. $895 on your second Friday in release. Pack it up, pack it in. It's a wrap, okay? And because of its absolutely pathetic second Friday, it ended up falling to second place, okay? It ended up getting destroyed by goddamn Jason Statham movie, a action B movie that, if this was a proper entertainment space, would be something directly released to like TNT or put in rotation on TBS. Like, what the hell are we doing out here? And a film that, ends up making, okay, you got a working man. It opened to, $15.2 million. Okay, made $1 million more, but I would imagine the budget behind a working man is nowhere near the 300, okay, Deadline's finally cop into a much more appropriate, which is still very much underselling this. $110 million feature expenses, comprised of $270 million in net production price tag, and then, of course, $111 global promotions and announcements, is that what the A stands for? And $29 million in residuals and other expenses. They also think that this film is going to make $295 million in revenue, $101 million global film rentals, $62 million in worldwide home entertainment, $130 million in streaming and TV revenues. Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, $130 million from streaming and TV revenues. Yeah, the streaming revenues that they're going to get by selling it to themselves to put on Disney Plus. That's some funny accounting that's going to definitely need to be factored into this stuff. But yeah, A Working Man, a modest budget action film based on a novel by Chuck Dixon. Unironically, yeah, one of the most celebrated comic book writers, the past 40 years, who cut his teeth at DC working on Birds of Prey, Batman, the Bat Family. Yeah, he's pretty distinguished and very well celebrated in those circles. So while, $15.2 million opening weekend for a little action film seems like peanuts in the grand scheme of things, proportionately, that is huge. That is huge and definitely goes towards making that film profitable, and it's just icing on the cake to go ahead and trounce one of the biggest flops, not just in Disney's history, but in cinematic history. Because it's not getting better. It's not getting better for Snow White moving forward, okay? It might ride out the rest of the week and catch a couple more dubs, but we're definitely going to see a 6-digit day, perhaps when Monday's numbers come in, or definitely by Thursday, because you even see the Thursday numbers right there, and holy Christ, man. 1.8 million on your first Thursday. Yeah, that's a record for disaster. And to just simply track a similar bomb, one that I'm making reference to right now, because you see the numbers that we have here in the first 10 days of release, you take a look at the Marvels, and well, here's the thing, right? Okay, at this point in time, 10 days into release, you got 65 million compared to the 67 million for Snow White. Like I said, it has pulled ahead just a little bit, but the Marvels had 200 fewer screens, and the Marvels, in its third week in release, didn't have anywhere near the same level of competition that Snow White is about to face in the form of the Minecraft movie. So yeah, Snow White is starting to pull away from the Marvels. They are about to lose a considerable number of screens. And in comparison, you take a look at those numbers right there, okay, and you factor in the international box office, and none of that math is mathing at all. It's virtually identical hauls. And if you want to take a look at the amount of money this film is losing, you remember the domestic box office, they get 50%. Disney gets 50% of that haul, and then internationally, you're lucky to get 40%, and in some cases 30 and 25% if we're talking China, which has like most of the world, like the rest of the world, has outright rejected Rachel Zegler and Snow White and the 7 box office disasters. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.